Hello, I am Ryan Rao.
And I am Logan Zevny.
And welcome to the Real Talk Podcast, your final destination to discuss anything indie, niche, or otherwise twee. Today we have a very special guest and my friend, Luke Ledbetter.
Hello.
So, Logan, what are we covering today?
We are looking at the trailer for Asteroid City, Wes Anderson's newest project.
It definitely, it seems to be very inspired from that sort of 60s, mid-60s, like a sort of nuclear war era type thing, where it has the very similar color palette of sort of those cartoons that were coming out at that time, you know, the Stay Aware or the Duck and Cover type of things, which is very bright and colorful despite the sort of dark nature of it.
Definitely. Moving into some of Wes Anderson's more written style, I think that Woodrow is going to be a very interesting character in this movie. Wes has always been very good with doing coming-of-age stories with adolescent characters. You have Zero from the Grand Budapest Hotel and Sam from Moonrise Kingdom, both very confused characters kind of finding their place in life, fit into that similar kind of stoic niche, which looks exciting.
I mean, it is always very interesting because he has a very archetypical kind of like main character that he usually goes for, where at least sometimes he likes to throw in someone who's very sort of egocentric and narcissistic. You know, you see that the Royal Tenenbaums with Royal, you see that in Rushmore with Max, you see that in nearly all of his films, including Grand Budapest, where you have the concierge who's very much in that same vein. So I'm interested to see if he sort of picks that up again, has that place within this movie as well. It's definitely very interesting how he sort of plays around with that, where he can have a very sort of bright and colorful background, but then the story itself is something sort of dark and gritty, and that very much comes out in sort of the more adult humor that he likes to put into his films, I would say.
Certainly. I think that his dollhouse aesthetic, as a lot of people like to call it, where he uses bright pastel colors and whimsical settings, it really adds a bigger punch when the characters go through their more dark moments, which it is always very adult characters with intense issues that he deals with most often.
And how the colors also show the character's position in the story. Mm-hmm. Like how in the Grand Budapest Hotel, the main character wore purple outfits, so showed true resemblance to their characters' roles, and how the outsiders were more grayish coloring, showed how they were more colorized to showing general issues in the movie.
Yeah, sort of like that gray kept that neutral. You saw that with the lawyer. You also have the author himself, who we see at the beginning of the movie, who has that neutral color, and that sort of goes in to show that these are these neutral characters towards the issues that are at hand, and they are only trying to do their best to be sort of a mediary role, and that's always very interesting. But with Asteroid City, it definitely seems like he's following another trend. Like I said earlier, the colors seem very inspired from that 60s Doomsday cartoon era type of thing, and that also sort of follows another trend of the iconography of the film.
He's never really been one to use a lot of iconography in his films. In the Royal Tenenbaums, it's set in New York, although they never actually show any real landmarks. It always feels more so like he picks a setting from the real world, but once that's established, it kind of falls into a fictionalized version of that. Like the Grand Budapest Hotel doesn't feel like it's set in Germany or any European nation. It feels like it's set in this idealized, nostalgic, and sentimentalized thought of what that could be.
Yeah, it's very interesting. A thing that personally noticed just watching his films and watching the trailer is he likes to take inspiration from ideas or things that are in the real world. You know, like with the Grand Budapest Hotel, there's a lot of similar to Nazi imagery and the rise of that party there. And I think that with Asteroid City, like I said earlier, drawing from that 60s era type of thing, it seems like he's taking that and almost exaggerating it in this world. He's also following that other trend of sort of making his own locations, like you said with Grand Budapest. It doesn't necessarily feel like you're in any particular place. It is sort of he does play a little bit with origins and nationality there, but it doesn't necessarily stay in line with something particular like that. It's more of a world that he likes to craft, drawing emphasis and inspiration from the real world. One thing that I'm very interested to see is if he uses one of his very favorite things, claymation, that sort of thing, or stop motion film on the new film. Because, I mean, you see in things like the Life Aquatic, where he will use claymation to make things that aren't quite real
Yeah.
You know, and I think that would be interesting. Like, you have nearly alien-like fish within that movie, and I think it'll be interesting to see if he does something with the aliens and the claymation in Asteroid City.
Moving on from that, as you guys may know, Wes Anderson is very meticulous, and he has amassed a troupe of trusted actors that he can count on to really take direction and fill the role. This movie is going to have quite a few of his mainstay actors.
For the new movie, Asteroid City, actors that will be reappearing from previous films would include Jason Schwartzman, Adrian Brody, Tilda Swinton, Willem Dafoe, Edward Norton, Jeff Goldblum, and Tony Revolori.
And you were speaking about that. Schwartzman is actually returning for this movie. He has been in quite a few Anderson movies, 6 at the time of recording, although he hasn't had a big role in them since Rushmore in 98 and The Darjeeling Limited in 2007. This is his first film since Rushmore, like he's the proper star of it. Actually, it took me quite a while to realize it was Schwartzman. He has gone a long way since Max Fisher. The beard, really, he's a whole new character.
Yeah. If you had told me that after I'd watched Rushmore, I probably wouldn't have known unless you had said something.
You didn't know until I told you. But yeah, moving on, he does like to work with a lot of same actors, and the most notable of this is Bill Murray. Bill Murray and Wes Anderson have had a very close connection during Wes Anderson's career. Obviously, Bill Murray signed on to Wes's second film, Rushmore, in 1998, but yeah, it's going to be different. He's being recast by Steve Carell, which is pretty big. Wes Anderson is a pretty big name. He is working with Tom Hanks and Steve Carell in this movie.
So Ryan, how do you think the role change from Bill Murray to Steve Carell will depict the absence of Bill Murray? Like, how do you think Steve Carell would make the movie and like the scene flow throughout the movie?
Anderson's always been very good at finding actors that can fit their roles very well and that can bring their own deliberate direction to the role. I don't think I've ever really thought he miscast anybody, and I think that's why he has his troupe in so many films, is because he has a very intimate connection with his actors, and they bring, I'd say, as much to the table as he does as the director. So I'm sure Steve Carell is going to do a very good job. From what I know of Steve Carell from interviews and such, he's a very thoughtful and soft-spoken person, and I'm sure that he can really find the core of the character and do a good job, but it is pretty significant that Bill Murray is going to be out of this one. Asteroid City will premiere at the Cannes Film Festival in May. This follows Moonrise Kingdom and The French Dispatch, which both premiered at the same festival. He also has The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar releasing through Netflix this fall. No trailers have been released yet, but I'm sure we are all waiting in bated breath for that. Thank you to our production associates, Brandon and Chloe, and our guest star, Luke Ledbetter. Tune in next week when we look at 2022's The Whale, starring Brendan Fraser.